you're recording. And that. That's recording. Oh, that's it. Yeah. So when that good, that's working. You can hear everything's good.
I can't hear you.
No.
No.
How's that?
Yep.
That's
okay
got
now.
it. Yeah, did that the other day as well. All right. Fucking click it to the camera.
Clicker.
Steve Marsh,
Solly.
if you could put your mind, body, personality into an animal, what animal do you reckon you'd pick and why?
Geez, I wasn't expecting that. Well, I like eagles, and I like it because they're just a little bit solo. They glide around, they swoop for their prey, they have a good view. Haven't really thought about it, but that's just something that comes to mind.
Cool.
I like them.
Beauty. Good
Yep.
one. All right. So from the beginning, start us when you're kind of starting school, 5, 6 years old. Tell us about your life and your family up until you got to kind of high school. Talk us through where you lived.
So I guess grew up St Agnes, Tea Tree Gully way, and lived there with obviously mum and dad. Had a younger sister, Cherie, and I went to school just up the road. I was in a pretty good sort of spot to be a kid. Just up the road where the school was, there was a creek, which was fun when you're a kid. But as I got older, that's where there was jumps just up the road. On over the back fence was a reserve. Then it went at the time to the Tea Tree Gully dump, which is also a good fun place to go when you're a kid. And that also then backed on into, in the future, the Tea Tree Gully BMX track. So, wasn't far from Anstey's Hill. Went to St Agnes Primary School. Pretty much rode as much as I could. Like I got, my dad, obviously saw there was a passion with bikes. He liked bikes. He rode some motorbikes and always had a bit of a bug for that. And I reckon in maybe, God, I'm going to sound really old now, but probably about 84, BMXing was starting. And they were going to make a BMX track, and it was actually at Tea Tree Plaza. And they had a big opening day, went to that, and then I sort of did a little bit of racing for a bit, but I think I was just having more fun doing little jumps down the creek with some mates, riding around the school. Remember, bike chasing and just having fun on a bike. And I probably, I did a few other little sports. I never really got into a heap. I did a bit of basketball and a bit of tennis and just school sports, I suppose. But yeah, biking was where, riding was where I was at home. And I felt comfortable and at home. So, moving on as I was getting a bit older, my dad was doing some motorbike trials, and I was always interested in motorbikes. I got a motorbike when I was quite young. I loved that. If I could have pursued motocross or something, I would have loved to have done that. But Yeah, it wasn't to be. But yeah, as time went on, yeah, I really enjoyed watching my dad and his mate doing some trials. And our front yard, I remember there was we had like a little man-made creek, and he made a little area of moss rocks, and there was a big log there. And I remember seeing him and his mate John trying to get through this little creek bit on the driveway, and I was thinking, oh, I could do that. I reckon I could do that. So I didn't have a trials bike though, and I had ridden his a few times. Keeping in mind that I don't know, they didn't really make kids trials bikes back then. So
And this is motorbike trials.
Yeah, yeah. So he had like a Yamaha TY 125 or something, and yeah, I knew how to start it and ride it and stuff like that. He taught me from a young age how to ride it, use gears and clutch, and so I knew how to do that. But I think one day he was at work and I got home from school, and I thought, right, and I pulled his bike out and had a bit of a play around on it, and I tried this section that they couldn't get through, and I got through it. And then I found myself in this predicament where I really wanted to tell him that I'd got through this section, but on the other hand, I didn't really want to tell him that I took his bike out and rode it. So in the end, I did tell him, and it was a long time ago. I got faint memories of it, but I'm pretty sure he got the bike out and asked me to do it again. I did it again. There's also a really big log out the front I got over that him and John had issues with, and then he asked if I wanted to get into motorbike trials. So yeah.
How old were you reckon then?
So I reckon I was probably about 13, and I don't think I could start straight away. I can't remember what age you had to be, but I had to be a little bit older. But I got a bike and we rode for a bit and practiced for a little bit, and then yeah, when I was old enough, went and joined a trials motorbike club, the AJS club, and started doing some trials, and absolutely loved it. As well as, when I wasn't on the bike, I was back on my BMX, doing skids and jumps, and having a ball. Yeah, I guess as going on from there, things started happening quite rapidly. I wanted to do everything on a bike. I'd continued doing motorbike trials. I'd won some junior state titles. Got to a point where we moved house, and we moved to Mobbery Heights, and again we were near creeks and stuff like that. And I found the only time I could really practice motorbike stuff was on my bike, my BMX, which really didn't cut it. So we mucked around, Dad and I, trying to make a lower gear on it. At this point in time, I had no idea about trials, push bikes or anything like that. So we made a lower gear, and I found that easier to ride over rocks and things. And so I was doing a bit of trials. I was trying to learn flatland. There was a skate ramp up the road. I wanted to try riding that. I was doing just on the bike 24/7. But I always was brought back to trials, and I guess as time went on and I got a bit older, it was getting more difficult to go to trials events. My parents separated, which put a bit of a strain on that for sure. And my dad's time, who took me out riding, was probably a bit poor at that time, as in poor timing. And it was too difficult to continue with that. So I just kept having fun again, riding my bike down the creek. I had a couple of neighbours down the road who...
Check that in and bit your mouth in a bit more there,
had a couple of neighbours down the road who happened to be into trials as well. A couple of other kids that, liked it, didn't know much about it. They had a go at it, and it was fun. Yeah, I mean, I've probably missed a whole heap of stuff there, but
But you fell into trials from a young age.
Yeah.
And what, by the time you're 13, 15?
Yeah.
That was your thing? That's your sport?
Yeah. Well, it was, but I really liked my BMX as well. So I was trying the flatland thing. I was okay at flatland, but it was like, I think I was trials. You got to keep your feet on the pegs. You got to keep your feet up. You got to keep balanced. And, so it was a bit weird taking feet off and trying to swing frames around and that. And I reckon I've done most of my shin damage doing flatland. I also was fascinated with jumps and getting air. And there was a ramp up the road. And I was quite good at riding this quarter pipe. And yeah, I remember at the time not many people on BMXs rode it. And there was, it was a skater thing. But I grew respect with the skaters because I was this young kid that rocked up there and got some big air at the time. And no armour, no pads, no helmet.
No idea.
Shitty old bike. Loose grips, no plugs in the bars, just kids having fun.
Yeah.
But towards the end of my motorbike trials, just backing up there, I was doing quite well. Like as a junior, I was I got second in an Australasian championship, and I was riding. Again, we didn't have lighter, powerful bikes as they do nowadays. We're riding bigger bikes, and I was riding B grade and sometimes up to A grade level as a young kid. So, I definitely, it was hard not riding motorbikes as much as time went on, but
gave you some good bike handling skills.
Big
heavy bike.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Yeah, and then I guess going on from there and leading into the mountain bike and trials, my dad moved into another house actually back close to where we grew up at St Agnes, and I was just riding some trials at the primary school there, which I knew of when I was, from being a kid. And I bumped into Dazzle, Darren Moore, and he was talking about trials. Are you doing trials? And, well, yeah. Oh, yeah, I've got a trials bike, and told me about this trials bike he had. And he said, oh, yeah, there's a competition soon. Oh, you should come do the competition. And anyway, he took off, vague memories, but I'm pretty sure he took off and came back with this trials bike. And he had this Hans Ray GT trials bike that was like everything I had in my head that we'd built up, and funnily enough, the GT BMX that I had that we welded a bash guard on and made this low gearing was very similar to this proper trials bike. So that was quite funny. But this thing was it had like a triple clamp fork, and it was just. I couldn't believe it.
So it's before the Monty?
Before the Monty. Anyways, he had this knowledge of trials. And again, I thought it was just a motorbike thing. And he told me about that, and this happened quite quickly. He said, look, there's a competition coming up. That was at Shepherd's Hill Reserve. You should come. It was part of the Adelaide Mountain Bike Club. They held a lot of trial stuff then. And I went down to this event, and I thought, I'll just enter C grade or something. They had A, B, and C grade like motorbikes, and I thought I'll just do C grade. And then we went down there, and I was like looking at the sections, and I was like, nah, I'll change to do A grade, because the stuff I'd been doing and riding was easily that level. And I won that event. And then Dazzle mentioned that they're going to try to form a mountain bike club, and he well, actually this happened over the next sort of 6 months. He informed me about these new bikes you could get, like specific trials 20-inch bikes. They're called a Monty, and he'd got some magazine from Europe, and showed me, and in the end I thought, I want one, I've got to get one of these things. So then he mentioned about there's Australian Championships at Thredbo, and that we're trying to form a club to go over there. So we're having a meeting in the city, blah, blah, blah. It's on a Wednesday or something. And we went down there, and there was a heap of people back there, and I'm pretty sure you were there. Darren, Dave, Mike, Gary Patterson, Homer. God, there was, I can't remember who was actually there, but that was the night that we formed Inside Line. And, we made this club and went to Thredbo. So it was cool. I reckon I got the Monty maybe a week or two before that event. And off we went. So, it was...
How did you get up? What year was that, and how did you get there?
So that was 94, and we all went there in the bus, Inside Line. So we had some, great bunch. We had some cross-country races. We had some trials riders, some downhillers.
Who are some of the names you can remember?
I reckon Darren O'Grady might have been there. There's Rob Marison, I reckon, Dazzle, probably Kazza, yourself, Ben Whitlock, who was, he was, I guess, gun downhiller. Well, he was a gun downhiller. He rode for a factory team, and and so it was good. It was a real mix of different people.
No one really knew each other.
No, we didn't. And we all stayed in the same place, went there in this big old bus, and we're all, I think most of us had never been to Thredbo, and, it was such a memory, like just being blown away driving up there. We had a chalet at pretty much the top of the hills. On everyone that has been to Thredbo knows that one side's the chalets and the other side's the hills. So we were at the top looking out over it all, and it was just, apart from having to climb up that hill at the end of the day.
Steps.
Yeah, but it was amazing. I never really experienced downhill then, even the cross country. I think back then they had the slalom as well. They even had an uphill.
Hill climb.
Yeah, hill climb. Few other cool things, but I think what made it really cool back then was everyone went to every event. Everyone would go to the dual slalom. Everyone went to the uphill. Everyone went to the cross country. Everyone watched the downhill. Everyone supported every event. And when we got to the trials, I was, pretty nervous. We didn't know what to expect. We had a qualifying, qualifying comp. So that was around the little park at the bottom. And that was pretty cool. I think you had to get the top 3 to make the final.
Can you explain roughly what some of the scale of the obstacles and what you were doing back then?
Yeah, like I guess trials then was more riding over stuff rather than what we now do with the big hops and lunges. You didn't see too much of that stuff. It was, like if you were going to go up onto, for example, a picnic table, you try to get a run up and bunny hop up it, whereas now you would just go roll up next to the side of it and go to the back wheel and bounce straight up onto the back wheel. Bikes and styles changed a lot, and but the qualifying was more just rocky sections that we it was about skill and bouncing around and stuff, but not as we do now, more riding over the rocks and getting through some tricky bits. I can't remember. I remember feeling like I'd done pretty shit, but in the end, I think I qualified 3rd and I made the final. So, and I think that was on a Friday night. So, when the Friday night came and we went down to the competition, I couldn't believe it. Just the amount of people down there. I was just totally blown away, and it was
like about a football. There was an oval at
yeah,
the front. I don't know, soccer pitch size, and it was full.
it was wedged. Yeah,
People.
it was so wedged. We were trying to practice. People were watching. I remember. Yeah, I remember just being really overwhelmed. But once the competition started, it all sort of went. All those thoughts and fears went, and it was time to focus on the job. And it was amazing. And I think I just. I remember a couple of the sections. The one in particular was a picnic table that we had to get up on that the two guys in front of me couldn't get up on. And I think, you had maybe a bike length run up, which I could get about 2 kicks from the cranks, and I did a clean bunny hop up onto it. And I just remember the crowd. They were just getting into it. And I mean, it was so thick that they were carrying our bikes over heads to the next section because we couldn't get our bikes through the crowd. It was never again will you see it like that. I don't. Yeah.
Do you remember any of the names that do you remember the other riders, like the competitors at that stage?
Definitely Bruce Hamley, and he was a good close rival those first few years. And that first year, I can't remember who else
was Ewan. Was that
it was
still Ewan
yeah,
Gelly?
it might have been Ewan Gelly. Yeah,
93. He was the national champion.
Current
93.
one. Yeah.
Craig Fisher, maybe was he?
Yeah, I reckon it might have been Ewan Gelly in that final. There was Oh God,
That was a long way back.
Yeah, it was a long way back.
So how'd you go? That was your first national trials comp?
I mean, look, in the end, it went well. I won it, and it was just, one of the best feelings, I've ever had. Mainly because of the whole story of it. Meeting Dazzle, forming this club, going on this adventure interstate with a bunch of awesome people, being at Thredbo, the crowd, and then going on from there. It really introduced me to downhill. I was sort of in awe of Ben Whitlock and his cool bike with his cool kit, watching the downhill. It was amazing. He came away with a second, I remember. And I was thinking, right, when I get back to Adelaide, I'm getting a mountain bike. And I think I had one, but I'm getting into downhill. So, and I did. And that was good. Yeah.
Okay, you're a bike trials rider. You've seen downhill. What was the first bike that you started trying to ride downhill on? Just what was it? Do you remember?
I remember we started some dual slaloms at Marble Hill, and that was probably the first racing that I did. And the dual slalom at Marble Hill was awesome. It was super steep start, so you pretty much dropped in and went down a chute, I think over a little gap, and then into a sort of left and a big right, and it was just a sliding corner. A few more doubles, lefts and rights. It was just a really fast slalom track. I didn't have a bike going for the first event that I did, and I actually borrowed my mum's Repco Hotham ladies bike and raced on that. So I think I've always, and back then, people were wearing, I don't know, like Lycra and bits and pieces, and I'm pretty sure I've been paid out for it before, but I wore some sort of tights. God damn it. Yeah, but anyway, we came away with a laugh with that one because I got third in the slalom in the end in elite men on my mum's bike. So it was, that was really cool. So after that, I was, I got in a bit more with a bike shop near where I worked, Track Cycles at the time, who I then stayed with and worked for years. But I got a rigid mongoose mountain bike. That's all you could really get back then. Maybe front suspension if you were lucky. Yeah, I mean, I reckon around this time, like V brakes were just coming in. There was Whitlock's bike, which is like this amazing dual suspension bike that probably had an inch of travel. But yeah, everyone was on hardtails. Yeah, it was cool, and it was great seeing the bikes progress, over the next few years. But definitely my first inside line, then started a downhill series, and yeah, it was good times. Went out and we made tracks and we
What was the
practiced.
early days? Yeah. So, who were the core people? Like, this is early. We're talking what, 95-ish?
Yeah.
94, 95.
Yeah, 94, 95. Yeah, so, I mean, I remember, there was a lot of tracks up at Kersbrook at the time. We could practice, or we could ride there. So we were up there and cutting in tracks. Dazzle and I would go up there heaps. Gary Patterson, probably yourself. And then what else? I remember we heard about Fox Creek, and we went up there and checked that out. And I reckon there was like Benny A, again Gary Patterson, myself, and Dazzle. We started digging and cut in the first track there, bowl track. And
Is that still there now? Do you know?
The original bowl's not there. There's a new bowl, which uses pretty much nothing of the first one. It's on the same side of the hill, but everyone that knows Fox Creek now, I guess the original bowl probably started near where Paddo's start is, and it dropped down straight down the hill there. And but what made it cool was it finished in this bowl, and that bowl would get packed out when we had some race events there. I remember, hundreds of people being in there, DJs playing, Delta playing, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. There was beats rocking, people cool. Running.
It was an atmosphere.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
It was really good. So
Bring it back. Bring it back.
A good old bowl.
Yeah, all right. So step back to what was happening when you were finishing school. Like, go back to the last couple of years of school. What did you think you were going to do? Did you know what you were going to do?
No. I was very confused with life and where I was going to go. School wasn't really working for me. My bike was pretty much the main thing I enjoyed. I guess there weren't opportunities like there are now. Like, they really got good pathways to apprenticeships and things like that now, and that was all a bit overwhelming. I was thinking, I'd like to do that, but how do I get into that? And
uni wasn't your goal.
Uni, yeah. I'm definitely more hands-on sort of person. It was always going to be a trade, actually. I mean, I'd been working part-time at Macca's, and then towards the end of school, I wasn't really going much. And so I just thought, this is a waste of, time, parents' money. I might as well go. I can work at Macca's more right now, get some money, and then try to work out what I want to do, which was like work ride. I hung out socially as well. I got to that age of hanging out. But I guess Macca's then led me into a pathway of management and like hospitality, and I started thinking, like, I was getting pretty focused on going down that path of doing this management thing with Macca's, and then getting out, and I had this sort of dream a bit younger about, you know, going and working on an island in Queensland on a, you know, managing a, you know, a resort restaurant, or, you know, getting into hotel and hospitality. At the same time, this is probably around the same time I was meeting Dazzle, and this thing with trials happened, and then being overwhelmed with the results and what was happening. And I remember actually with Macca's, I'd planned like my holidays months before to do this Aussie titles. Pretty much when we decided with Inside Line we're going to the Thredbo for the Aussie titles, I booked in my holidays. And then we got up to about a fortnight before it, and my boss there said, look, you can't go away. We've got once a year all these hierarchies come around and they check your store out, and they go through all the mumbo jumbo, checking cleanliness, seeing how places run, and they said you can't go. You can do it. You can go before or after, but we need you there that week. And I said, no, well, I'm going to, you know, I bought this bike. I'm going to do trials. And they said, well, you know, it was pretty harsh back then. I wouldn't be able to do it now, but they were pretty much saying, well, make your mind up what you want to do. So I'm pretty sure I said, catch you later, and walked out. And then went back to him and just said, look, I'm doing this. I'm focused, and I want to do this event. And, you know, yeah. It made me think, well, I'm not that appreciated here, so I thought, stuff this, and I did resign.
That's a tough call. You're young. You like to make that decision there and then.
Yeah, and I was getting into this course as well, so yeah, whether it was yeah, I look back on it sometimes, think, God, was that a dumb move? Because I could have had that avenue of going into hotel and hospitality, or maybe I would have thought, fuck that, I'm not going to do that. I'm having more fun on my bike
now, are you? So
no,
you probably weren't going to end up there.
No, and I'm not going to regret, you know, what went on in the future with mates and life and travelling around Australia, and yeah,
cool.
Living my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you finished school, you're working at Macca's, you just won a national trials championship.
Yep.
You're 18-ish.
Yeah.
What do you do? What are you doing from there?
So I'm pretty sure one of the girls I worked with lived at Lobethal. It's funnily enough, it's where I've moved to now, but she knew of a grower. They needed some cherry pickers, so I went and worked there for a bit just before Christmas in the summer, made some money. You know, fortunately I was living at home then, and it was the times where the costs of living weren't like they are now, so you could get by pretty easy. I think I kept persuading, trying to get a job at the bike shop at Track Cycles, and I'm pretty sure I even went there and just did work experience just to get my foot in the door, and then from there on, I got offered a little bit of work, and then a bit more work, and then I was getting more and more results as well. So the downhill results were coming in. I was winning races and getting, you know, in the top 5 nearly every race. I then won another Australian Trials Championship. I kept riding with Mongoose at the time, and then there was signs of them actually before that there was other stuff. God, I'm trying to think back. There was stuff before Mongoose, but yeah, I started on the Mongoose and then went elsewhere. It's this rain.
Well, we'll find out. We're recording this in my shed. How's your beer going? Top it up?
No, I'm good.
Is it good? Yeah, the studio is not that, but it's as professional as I could get. But if it rains, we can hear it.
We might have to pause.
We'll see how much this rain goes.
Yeah. No, so I remember I had an opportunity with downhill. We started doing some Aussie rounds, I guess, like 95, I thought I'm going to do the Australian downhill series. And, God, was it 95? I'm trying to think. Things happen really quick.
You know,
Yeah,
I'm thinking...
It's getting too loud, isn't it?
I'm thinking that...
Let's pause for a sec.
That this... We might pause. Hopefully it's just a pause and we can
We'll
come
do a
back.
piss.
But
Yep.
we'll do a break and we'll come back.
Yeah.
Because it's...
This is the
fucking
4
raining
mil,
here.
apparently, coming
That's
through.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, we're going to pause
Yeah.
for a minute.
Cool. Actually, Jamie rang me. Oh, do you know how I can find out all the old state who the old state champions are and stuff? Like,
Who printed all in the
go
salts and
ask Dazzle.
Yeah, ask Dazzle.
Dazzle's got the
Yeah, he's got the...
everything there in the shed.
All right, so we've come back here and it's raining and the acoustics in my studio are underprepared.
There's lightning as well.
There is lightning as well. It's very exciting. So as much as I would love to keep chatting here, I don't think the audio is going to be great. So
Yeah.
we're going to come back and do this again.
Yes.
Uh,
I'm going to try to remember some things.
sign us out, Steve.
Well, we'll see you next time. It's been fun while it lasted. And to be continued.
Brilliant. Thanks,
Yeah.
mate.
Cool. Cheers.